We have always known war.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jake and today I wanted to talk to you about Avowed, Obsidian's next big budget RPG. In this video I'm going to cover everything that we possibly know about Avowed, including leaks dating all the way back to 2020. But real quick before we start, if you enjoy this video don't forget to hit that subscribe button at the end and leave a like if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Now, let's get into the video. So, let's start right at the beginning. Avowed was rumored to be in development and was described as Obsidian's attempt at Skyrim. For those of you who have been living under a rock and are unaware, Obsidian are of course the developers of Fallout New Vegas and The Outer Worlds, a company made up of arguably the best RPG developers in the industry. Anyway, a little after this rumor we got the official announcement trailer for Avowed at E3 2020. Now it came with a cool looking CGI trailer and absolutely nothing else. But that trailer did provide us with some useful info. So it starts by setting the scene as showing a presumably fallen or crumbling empire that, quote unquote, has always known war, and has given birth to some sort of evil force through the sins of said empire.
And you must face the monsters our sins have borne.
You will be tasked to deal with the threat, slaying skeletons and various other monsters, and probably some people along the way too. So it seems the story is going to have a heavy involvement with royalty, clashing kingdoms, and of course, monsters. I think Games Radar said it best here. The question left by the end of the trailer, is an oath worth the weight of a crown, suggests that the player's destiny may be that of royalty, and they may have to confront and question their fate as they rebuild the fallen empire. Either way, I think we can all agree that that is a very epic trailer, and that soundtrack, man, oh my god, absolutely beautiful. Now, I'm not a Pillars of Eternity expert by any means. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I haven't played the games at all. But fans of the series quickly noticed that this flag is related to Wodica, I think I pronounced her name correctly, a deity known as Oathbender. She single-handedly shaped Eora, the place where this game is set, but was conspired against and killed by the other gods who thought she was too powerful. Man, I've never gotten into Pillars of Eternity because personally I'm not a fan of that turn-based combat style. But this lore sounds absolutely incredible. It really seems like Obsidian have picked the absolute perfect universe to build a first-person RPG around. I think The Outer Scrolls might finally have some real competition here. Anyway, according to another Reddit user, it seems that Wodica may have a larger part to play in this story than we might have originally thought. They went above and beyond to translate the runic writing found on this sword. They discovered that the text actually says Oathbender. Oathbender of course being one of Wodica's monikers. So, most fans are thinking that this game is going to take place within the Aedir Empire, since they worship Oathbender. I'm going to leave a link down below to a detailed Reddit post by someone who knows a lot more about Pillars of Eternity lore than me, so if you want to read more in depth about this theory, you can do so yourself down below. But yeah, the trailer set the scene of the game, showed us some cool skeletons and magic hands, and showed us that the soundtrack is going to be absolutely amazing. And for eager fans, it showed a lot more about where the game could be set, and even when. Now that's not bad for a first preview, right? I mean, I'm sure next year we'll get some more gameplay and more info, he said. So, as I mentioned before, we later found out that the game will be set in the Pillars of Eternity universe, and that this cool looking hand magic we see going on here, while that's an actual spell that you can do in game, as is later confirmed by a leaked screenshot that you can see here. Now, even though this screenshot is in very low resolution, looking at the magic around the hands, the lake in the center, and just that road, I think it's safe to assume that this is going to be a very visually impressive open world game. There was a rumor going around a while ago that this game was going to have the same color palette as The Outer Worlds, but to be completely honest, looking at this screenshot, it seems like a lot more dim and realistic when compared to The Outer Worlds, so I don't really know what to think about that one. To be honest, in my personal opinion, I much prefer the more darker, more realistic color look than that of The Outer Worlds. I think it worked well for The Outer Worlds and the tone that they were going for, whereas personally I think Avowed would be much more suited to that darker, more realistic tone. Anyway, shortly after that E3 announcement trailer, an interesting ArtStation model was discovered. And right away people noticed that this model, titled Cursed Infantry, looks incredibly similar to the models we saw in the initial trailer. And to make things even more interesting, the artist who posted this did previously actually work for Obsidian, and these models were made for an Unreal Engine 4 project, the engine that Avowed is confirmed to be using. So, although never officially confirmed, I'm going to go ahead and say this was our first real look at an Avowed enemy. Now it's titled Cursed Infantry, and you can see how the skin is rotted off of the soldier's face. I think it's an incredibly cool design, and once again I think it just fortifies the fact that Avowed is going to be a very visually impressive game running on that next gen hardware. But that's not all. There are some other images posted on this artist's page around the same time as our undead friend here, like this Elf Archer for example, which again could possibly be an Avowed character. Now we sadly don't have a 3D model of this, it is just a 2D concept, but again it might give us our first look at some of the characters that aren't undead soldiers in Avowed. It doesn't say specifically whether this was for a project or not, but we know that elves live in the Pillars of Eternity universe, so I wouldn't be too surprised if it was. But we also have this lady here who is much more interesting, because the artist said that this is a main story character that they created for an Unreal Engine 4 project. Now I'm surprised that this wasn't a bigger deal when it was discovered at the time. This may very well be our first look at a main character from Avowed. Someone you'll be talking to and spending a lot of time probably running quests for, or maybe even a companion that you can bring along on your adventures. Now obviously she looks absolutely stunning, the detail on her armor and clothes is absolutely insane, as well as just having a genuine, almost photorealistic face. Again, I really think Avowed is going to be an absolutely gorgeous game. I'm so excited to get our first look at gameplay, hopefully next month. Now I'll link the artist page down below in the description so you can go ahead and check out some of the art for yourself if you'd like to. There are a few more images that I didn't show here because I didn't think they were that important, and it's just sort of more of the same stuff. But again, if you want to go and check that out for yourself, link will be down below in the description, you can go and do so. Around the same time that this ArtStation profile was discovered, some more information was also being leaked by someone called Sponger. And they stated the following: Avowed will have a fully open world, much larger than Skyrim, very different larger, more proper word would be denser and more contrasted at the same time. So that I think is very interesting, a world larger than Skyrim. Skyrim is already an absolutely ginormous game that would take you hundreds of hours to go through every single thing. If Avowed is aiming to be bigger than that, I can't even imagine what that would look like. Now, they do say that it is denser and more contrasted, so they're not necessarily talking about the map size, which may imply that the map itself won't be that big, but perhaps there will be lots of underground elements and a lot more things for you to discover moment to moment than that of Skyrim, which again is a game that is really known for having dense areas where there is always things to do. The game will primarily be set in the Living Lands region of Eora. Now Sponger does state that this could change later on and this is merely just a starting point. Again, I'm not a Pillars of Eternity expert, I'm not too sure what the Living Lands are, but if it lines up with the Adir Empire info we got earlier, then this could be a very real possibility. There is a big focus on world reactivity, lighting, next-gen AI systems, and physics. There's a special focus on physics with magic systems, but he has no clue what that could mean. Now again, we know that magic is going to have a very good attention to detail in this game. That spell that we've seen in the announcement trailer is in fact a spell that you can perform in-game, animations and all. So I'm very excited to see what physics systems they can bring with the magic. Maybe you can lift objects up out of the air and throw them towards your enemies. Maybe it's something even more complex than that. I have no idea, but I am very excited to find out. We also have a real-time weather system, a very advanced character creation tool, and mod support for PC. Now, he states here that PC will be the place for the creation tool where people can create mods, but all mods will be playable on the Xbox console itself, so that is very cool. There will also be a very large number of factions, but it will have a very different approach than Skyrim. Again, I'm not entirely sure what that means. It could mean literally anything. I think it's kind of pointless to speculate there, but the fact that there's going to be a very large number of them sounds good to me. He also goes on to say that you'll be able to have companions that are different from the Outer Worlds. Again, not entirely sure what he means there. I think companions are expected in this type of game, so that isn't too much of a shock, but I am curious what he means by different from the Outer Worlds. Maybe he means they won't be as fleshed out as they were in the Outer Worlds, or maybe he means just the system in general will be different. Now, these are the two most interesting points to me. He says, game has bosses planned and some of them are very, very large. Gods will also have a special say in the game. Now, we know that there's probably going to be large bosses in this game, just from that announcement trailer alone. There's, big stomping footsteps coming out of a cave, seemingly a huge shadow, again implying that there's going to be a gigantic monster fight there. So that is kind of a given, but the way he specifies very, very large and mentions the gods, perhaps maybe we end up actually fighting some of the gods later on in the game. Who knows? He also says there are 2 large cities planned with many smaller ones with a strong focus on contrasting wild areas, rivers, mountains and desolated areas. Yes, you'll be able to swim. So 2 large cities is not that many. You would hope in a game like this there would be 4 or 5 major cities. But it's also not a bad thing if it means that they're going to be very fleshed out and actually very large. And again, it does mention there's going to be many smaller ones, so I think that it's still pretty good, all things considered. Again, we don't know the sense of scale, we don't know how large these large cities are, and we don't know how small these smaller ones are, so it's kind of hard to say, but I do think 2 large cities seems a bit weird. I kind of thought there would be more, but again, we have absolutely no scale to go with, so this is kind of meaningless. He also says there's a dynamic presentation of dialogue, which again is something that I wish they elaborated on a bit more, because what does that mean exactly, a dynamic presentation of dialogue? I can only really speculate there, and my mind kind of goes off to a million different places. I have absolutely no idea. Let me know down in the comments section what you think a dynamic presentation of dialogue really means. How would that work in the game? How does that system separate it from the likes of Skyrim, for example? He also says that there is an idea to kill everyone in the game option if you want to, which again I think is expected by Obsidian. It was something you could do in the Outer Worlds, so I would fully expect it here in Avowed 2. And he finally says that the target date is late 2022, early 2023. Now, obviously they didn't hit that release date. As I mentioned, this was all the way back in 2020, so a lot of stuff has probably changed if it even was true in the first place, but I wanted to talk about all of that because I still thought it was interesting and can provide some good fun topics to talk about regarding the game. But moving on from that leak, we pretty much had nothing else for quite a long while after that initial announcement trailer. Obsidian had stated, and I quote, "For those who are wondering about Avowed, the team is hard at work making something we're sure fans of our games and the Pillars of Eternity universe are going to love. While we are not showing anything right now, we are looking forward to showing off what we have been working on soon." Soon, they say. Well, that was all the way back in June 2021, so it was years of pretty much silence. There was no official word from Obsidian or Xbox about Avowed. And then stories started to come out that Avowed had somewhat of a troubling development. There were reports that Avowed had gone through multiple director changes and reboots through its development, but surprisingly was actually not in that bad shape according to people who've seen leaked footage. So, although the radio silence from Xbox and Obsidian was a little alarming, things were still looking pretty good for the most part. And that more or less brings us to the present. The Xbox and Bethesda showcase is right around the corner and everyone is expecting Avowed to be there. In a recent podcast, Phil Spencer said that he's seen good builds of Avowed, so here's hoping we'll actually get some gameplay later this year. As well as that, people in the community are speculating that this weird green stuff here around the Xbox logo for the showcase could actually be a reference to Avowed, as it does look incredibly similar to the green magic we see behind the Avowed logo, which could be suggesting that Avowed will have a strong presence in this showcase, though be warned, that is a lot of copium to inhale. And speaking of logos, Avowed also seemingly got a logo update just a few months ago, which could also be an indication that they're getting ready to show something off next month. And that's pretty much it. Now we're all just sitting tight waiting for June and hoping that Xbox are really gonna bring the firepower to this showcase event. Avowed is absolutely my second most anticipated game of all time right now, just behind Starfield, though if we see some good stuff at the showcase, it may even be pushed up to that #1 spot for me. I know that Obsidian make the best RPGs in the industry, so I'm incredibly excited to see what they can do with a big budget. It's been forever since I've played a fantasy RPG that scratched that Skyrim itch for me, and I really think Avowed is the game capable of doing that. So, let me know what you think of Avowed. Is it a game you're looking forward to? And if so, would you say it's in your top 5 most anticipated? Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed, and that notification bell so you know when I next upload a video. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Jake, and I'll see you next time.